Folks, we turn our attention to a growing health concern making headlines around the world, Hantavirus. I'm also hearing about Norovirus, which I didn't hear about. So while cases remain rare, the virus it has raised public awareness because of its serious symptoms and links to rodent exposure. What exactly are they, Hanta and Noro? How is it spread? And most importantly, how can we protect ourselves? I think everybody is afraid, so we're going to get locked down and it's COVID again and mask again and can't go to school and work again. But let's find out from Dr. Michelle Brown, who is a medical doctor and consultant microbiologist at the Department of Microbiology at the University Hospital of the West Indies here in Kingston at Mona. Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for your service first.
You're welcome.
Thanks for coming this morning. So as I said, I never heard of the Noro part. So let's take them one at a time.
Sure.
Hearing of Hantavirus. This is a cruise ship thing. 3 people dead. Some people test positive. What are we talking about?
Okay, so incidentally, norovirus is also referred to as a cruise ship virus.
Okay.
Because it is outbreaks commonly occurs on cruise ship. Now, this particular virus is very infectious. It causes diarrhea and vomiting and general foodborne illnesses. So in situation where, and the virus is shed in the stool. So in situation where persons may be asymptomatic, that is, they have the virus but they're not aware, they can be passing the virus in the stool or in the vomit, the vomitus. And if they don't wash their hands properly, handle food, it can easily be transferred to the food. Water supplies can be contaminated with stool that contains the virus. So it can be easily passed from one person to the next. In long-term care facilities, child care setting, daycare centers, where stool is being handled, it is very easy to be passed from one person to the next. That is the nature of the norovirus, very, very infective. And also persons who eat shellfish, oysters, clams, without cooking them properly, there is a risk of becoming infected. Vegetables should also be washed properly, because if these shellfish or clams or oysters are contaminated with soil containing stool that has the virus, persons can become infected.
Why was it called, they said the ship virus or something? Why?
Because it is very commonly associated with outbreaks on ship. You know, on cruises, persons are in close contact. Okay. So if persons are infected, they're holding rails, they're transferring the virus. Okay. If foods are contaminated, persons become infected. So outbreaks have been found on cruise ship resulting from infection with this virus.
And largely because as well you're out at sea for a prolonged
time. And persons are in contact for long periods of time. So they're sharing facilities. If they don't, simple hand washing is important. So if persons are not washing their hands with soap and water, they can easily transmit the virus from one person to the next.
Over the COVID period, and I hate to go back there, we lost a lot of people, but also a lot of people got COVID that didn't die. Who didn't die?
Yes.
What about this? Because I understand 3 people on the ship died. So what is the deciding factor whether it will mash up or whether it will come out of this quick?
All right, so now we're shifting to the hantavirus. So primarily hantavirus is transmitted by rodents, mice and rats, right? So aboard the cruise ship, what determined who got infected was the immune system. So, you know, chances are these persons were older persons who were on the ship, rich persons who could afford to travel, and they were on the ship for long periods of time. So their immune system may not have been as robust, and perhaps some had underlying illnesses. So sometimes our body defenses will determine who gets ill and the extent of the illness.
Okay.
And just to note that the strain of the virus, the hantavirus, that was responsible for the outbreak, it's rarely transmitted from human to human. The main modes of transmission for the hantavirus generally is in rodent feces, stool or saliva, from the rodents to human.
So that would happen maybe if you're in the same space where the rodents are and they're dropping stuff, maybe on your toothbrush, and things like that you come into contact with?
Definitely. So for example, like in camping, persons are camping in rodent-infested areas. The they can become, the particles in the nesting that the rodents make, that are made for the rodents, the particles can be aerosolized and they can breathe it in. Or if the rats, persons are bitten by the rats, if persons eat food that is contaminated with the virus, they can become infected as well.
Again, back to COVID, you keep hearing that cherry juice good for you and this not good for you and that good for you and you mustn't take this and you must take that. What about, God forbid, that somebody about the place have this hantavirus? What them do? Before them go, well, obviously you must go to the doctor, but there is something else that you can do.
Well, usually for the hantavirus is more supportive therapy. So when somebody becomes ill, there's what we call a prodromal phase, right? So the person, and this is the hantavirus that causes what we call the pulmonary syndrome, right? So somebody becomes ill, they first have a flu-like illness. So they have a lot of pain, they might have a fever, feel fatigue. So usually rest up, hydrate. Such a usual, supportive therapy that we'll use. However, it can get more severe. So the pulmonary symptom after up to about 10 days or within 10 days, the simple flu-like illness could progress to the pulmonary phase where the person may become short of breath, they have problem breathing, and in this case, you need hospital support. For example, external oxygen.
Are we looking at vaccines again for something like this? Should we start wearing our masks here in Jamaica?
Vaccine for hantavirus, there's none at the moment. So prevention is really avoiding contact with the rodents and, doing all we can to secure our homes and our spaces. Vaccines are in the making, but none are available just now. So it's more preventive measures that are being emphasized now.
And the preventive measures are washing our hands, wearing our masks right now. Do we encourage persons who are going, traveling right now, maybe to wear their mask while traveling?
Well, the truth is, in terms of prevention, we start at home. So because the rodents or rats are the carriers, so we're going to seal up all the places at homes where the rat can seep through. Our garbage, ensure that they are in tough containers and that they're tightly covered. If there are rat droppings at home, you can use bleach or some disinfectant, let it soak for about 5 minutes, then clean up. And we wear our gloves when we're cleaning these surfaces. That will help a lot. Foods that are contaminated or suspect to be bitten by a rat should be thrown out and not eaten. So it's not so much wearing the mask routinely, because it is just in some instances where persons are in prolonged contact and they're infected, can the particles become aerosolized.
Dr. Mish, it seems like everything starts like it's flu. I mean, dengue is like it's flu and COVID is like it's flu and this is like...
That is so true.
Can you, before you feel anything happen to you, you can test for this?
So the thing is that there's an incubation period. So you're having the virus, but you're not showing symptoms. If you test at that time, you may test negative. So you may have to repeat the test, usually like after 72 hours or so. So there's a possibility that you will have to repeat the test.
Yeah.
And you mentioned a good point. These symptoms overlap. So you might say, so how would I know if I'm infected, I'm not showing symptom? A travel history is important. So let's say, for example, you went to one of these countries that are known to have cases, then that's a possibility. You quarantine, you keep a close check on symptoms if you should have any. So that is important.
Yeah, because I read on air that I think it came, and I'll see if I find it now, from Argentina, that even though I'm hearing about this for the first time, apparently I don't want to say it is regular, but they have a number of cases in Argentina and Chile.
Yes, I do. So in North and South America, they have the hantavirus there. In fact, in Argentina, I believe from last year, about July, they had increased number of cases. So it is basically endemic there. It is present there.
Yeah.
So you will have cases from time to time.
I don't know if you mentioned this, Doc, but is lockdown going to be a solution?
No, it's highly unlikely. From the WHO, it was stated that the risk is very low. And I'll just emphasize that the main means of transmission is contact with the rats and the rodents.
Yeah.
In fact, from CARFA, that's the Caribbean Regional Laboratory, the director stated that we do not have the rodents, for example, that carry this virus. So it is a bit unlikely.
Yeah. I was reading here, it says 101 cases were reported between June 2025 and early May this year. This is Argentina.
Yes.
101 cases. And I'm not certain where that ship was coming from, but I think it was in that area.
I think it started in Argentina.
Yeah,
I think it actually started in Argentina.
Yeah.
So persons were speculated that the first persons who got infected may have gone bird watching in some area in Argentina. That's been one of the speculations.
So what I take away from this is that yes, it is out there, but it is not something that right at this minute we should be severely or overly concerned about?
Definitely,
Okay.
definitely. And in our homes, we do our little preventive measures. Get rid of the rats,
Keep
see
the
the
place
areas,
clean. Yeah.
keep the place clean,
Right.
Yeah, man.
sanitize. Yeah,
Right.
and we should be okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
No
man,
problem.
Very, very, very well explained.
Yeah.
Noro is the one that I didn't hear about. That is what I was talking about. By the way, Dr. Michelle Brown is a medical doctor and consultant microbiologist at the Department of Microbiology at the University Hospital of the West Indies right here at Mona. Going to take a break. Soon come.